Dear Brian, it's not the brakes. Hey, race fan, Brian Davis Races. Today we're going to go on a little adventure on a group ride, and unfortunately I haven't been able to do a ton of group rides this summer, but this is one of the better group rides in the area. It is peppy fast, but it's smooth, and the course is quite nice. So we're just going to go through a couple things with a faster group ride, how to stay on as long as possible, and how a pace line works, and then why getting dropped is actually a good thing. So let's get into it. All right, this is the rollout, and my strategy to stay on as long as possible starts even right here. So I'm going to tuck in toward the back. I'm not going to get up front because pulling in times like this just doesn't make any sense. I know that I don't have the fitness to perform well in this group ride. I thought I'd be able to finish, but that turns out not to be the case. So here, that intersection split up the group. You can't see it, but there's a group up the road. So now the question is, somebody's going to close that up. Well, it's not going to be me. So I'm going to tuck in there, and it shouldn't be you either if you're not feeling super strong. So anyway, we're on our way out of town here, so a few intersections to get through. And there's tactics that you can deploy to try to stay on the group as long as possible. So what we call 8-balling is where you're going to see in this video there's a group of cyclists that do the pulling, and they form a pace line, and then there's a group of cyclists that aren't up to pulling, which is fine, and that linchpin person that is in between those two groups is what we call the 8-ball position. Now, if I really wanted to stay on that whole ride, I would have stayed in the back with the cyclists that are not doing the pace lining. But, you know, I'm out there to challenge myself and try to see exactly where my fitness is. So I know I could have completed the ride had I stayed hidden, but sometimes it makes sense to go up and do some pulling. So for the first quarter of the ride, I'm fairly hidden, or at least I should say the first quarter of my ride. I'm trying to focus on staying in a good spot, stay out of the wind. There's a slight, as you're viewing this, right to left wind, but it's not much. This is pretty much a tailwind going out. So all right, this section is where things are going to start to split up. So you see our ride leader there is looking around for people and where they're going to go. We did have a slower group that formed off a wholly completely different group. We're not going to have footage of that, but I think that's where the ride leader was looking around to make sure that those people were in contact still before they did the split. And here's where you start to see the split. So when he came out and poked his head out, I thought, oh, okay, this is probably the time where we're going to split up. So I came up, and I'm going to do a little bit of work here with the gang that is going to be pulling. So you can see we're going 33 miles an hour. I'm putting out 300 watts in the pace line. So this is, well, we'll talk a little bit about how the pace line works. So everyone is just super smooth. What you notice here is you don't see riders looking behind them to make sure their wheel is clear. Yep. All right, now we're 32, and I'm putting out 600, 400 watts. Now watch my speed dip down 31, 30, 29, and that's just enough space for the rider behind me to come around and close. And that's really how the pace line should work. So the group on the outside is going about 1 mile an hour faster than the group on the inside, and this group will shift depending on the direction of the wind, and you'll see a shift in a little bit here. It's a very efficient way to get through lots and lots of miles, and it's a lot of fun. So again, you'll see these riders are not looking behind them. So if you take your eyes off of what's ahead of you, there's much more danger. Looking behind you, I know there's definitely a comfort level that comes with that, but that concept of looking behind you and making sure that you're clear of the rider that you're going to be passing, you should focus on having that action disappear from your riding as quickly as possible. And some of that comes with riding with people that you're comfortable with. But that also manifests itself in racing as well, where you see people flying into corners in Cat 4s, 5s, and they're turning their head and looking around, and that causes way more danger than it creates safety. So you can do whatever you want on a road bike in a group as long as you do it slowly and gradually. You can move laterally, you can go faster, you can go slower, you can do anything you want as long as it's gradual and everyone else has time to react to it. So here we're going to go through a little power hill, and everybody kind of gets out of the saddle to prove their manliness, and I am not going to do that. I'm going to try to tuck in, but you'll see a little strategy here at the bottom of this hill that I'm going to deploy to sneak in some speed. So we crest the hill, and I know where I want to be because we have a left-hand turn coming up, and it's a really quiet intersection, so that I know the chances of us stopping here are extremely small. So I'm going to set up to the right hand side of this turn so that I can sweep the turn and carry as much speed as possible through from the downhill. And then I know that if I sweep the turn through the path of where a car would go, there'll be no gravel. So you see I stay a little bit wide where a car would be, and then I'm able to carry all that speed corner to corner and then bounce right up to the front here. Now I'm not going to rip the ride apart at this stage. My plan is to just get some real estate. My plan is to not, as they say, blow up the group ride by railing a turn and then sprinting out of the turn. Everybody else has to catch me. That was not my plan. So now, right there, I didn't let that footage run long enough, but right there is where the shift happens based on the wind. So we change going, our pace line is now going counterclockwise instead of clockwise. So fast forward a few miles and we're going up a hill here, and I got in a rough spot on this hill. So 390 watts going up the hill. This would have been I was hurting at this stage, so this would have been a good time for me to go back and rest for a while. But again, I don't know if I'm an idiot or if I just really wanted to test my fitness, but I didn't do that. So I pull with the group, and then I'm gonna suffer the consequences here. But that's just how life works. And again, I'm out here to push myself and see where my fitness is, whether I was going to race or not the weekend. This was on a Tuesday night, and maybe I was going to race that weekend, so having some confidence going into the weekend or having some realism of what I might expect at a race based on this ride on Tuesday has a lot. That can help me a lot. So in any event, this was Tuesday. So Johnny here ahead of me had a great ride. He was riding really strong. All right, now we're up that hill. We're down another hill, and we're going up this other slight incline, getting up to a stop sign. And this is where the wheels fall apart. Now, this climb is almost done. And I'm, of course, always looking at the footage. You're like, why didn't you just stay there? But I didn't. So right here, my body is just blowing up. And I'm putting out a pretty good amount of watts, but I just can't do it anymore. So the group bids me adieu at this point. So now I'm thinking about a long ride home. But I'm also thinking about other things. And this is why getting dropped is actually not such a bad thing. I'm thinking about, okay, I'm not going to drink so much beer. I'm going to find healthier food. I'm going to do some other things to make sure that my riding, like check my brakes. Maybe I'll check my brakes.
Coming up with problems when you're looking at your brakes. Dear Brian, it's not the brakes.
So in a group ride, you're stretching your limits. If you get dropped, you know you're stretching your limits because you got dropped. So you should get dropped from time to time. You get remotivated on your lonely ride home, and you know someday you're going to make it through this ride. You know you're going to make it, and it's going to be awesome when you do. So it's okay to get dropped. All right, thanks. Brian Davis Races.